You're not even fit to shine her shoes." My mother's voice cut through the clinking of wine glasses. "My father didn't defend me," he nodded, and my sister Emma smiled like she'd finally won. The table froze, the air thick with quiet humiliation. I'd spent years swallowing their favoritism, paying their bills, and pretending it didn't hurt. But that night, something inside me shifted. My hands stopped shaking. My voice didn't. 6 words slipped out calm and sharp as glass. "Then ask Emma to pay your bills." The silence that followed wasn't the end of dinner. It was the beginning of their downfall. The silence after those 6 words felt heavier than any argument we'd ever had. Every candle flame on the table seemed to tremble as if even the light was afraid to move. My mother's jaw tightened. My father's eyes darted to the bills on the counter, and Emma's smirk wavered for the first time. But before that dinner, before my voice finally found its edge, there was a lifetime of being ignored. My name is Nora. I'm 28, and for most of my life, I've been the background character in my own family story. Not the shining star, not the disappointment, just the extra they forgot to write out of the script. I was the one who worked weekends while they went on family trips, the one who quietly covered a bill when things were tight, the one who came home to applause, but not for me, always for Emma. I work nights in the ICU, 12-hour shifts filled with alarms, adrenaline, and the metallic smell of disinfectant that clings to your skin long after you've scrubbed out. I've held dying hands, restarted hearts, watched families crumble and rebuild in the span of a night. But in my parents' eyes, that was never something worth bragging about. When I saved a life, they barely looked up. When Emma got a new title at her marketing firm, they threw a dinner. Emma, 2 years younger, but somehow always treated like the family matriarch. She was the golden girl long before she even earned it. Her every step was applauded, her every mistake softened, her dreams funded. I grew up watching her shine under a spotlight built out of my parents' pride while I learned to survive in the shadows. The favoritism was never subtle. It was loud like applause that never stopped. Every framed certificate of hers hung in the hallway. Every mention of her name drew smiles. Mine drew silence. I worked, I saved, I tried, but the reward was always more responsibility, not recognition. When bills piled up, my parents called me. When Emma overspent, they asked me to help your sister out just this once. Just once turned into years. I can still see that dinner, how ordinary it looked, how cruel it felt. The roasted chicken glistening in the candlelight, the silverware polished like they were preparing for guests who mattered. I had walked in straight from a night shift, still in my scrubs, exhaustion stitched into every movement. Emma arrived fashionably late, glowing in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. My father leaned toward her, every word, nodding, laughing at her stories like she was delivering gospel. My mother couldn't look away, pouring her wine like she was toasting a queen. And me, I sat at the end of the table, the same wobbly chair I'd always been assigned, the one no one else wanted. That night, I remember thinking, this isn't new. This is just the latest scene in a script I've lived too long. But I didn't know yet that it would be the last one I'd play quietly. The pattern had always been predictable. Emma soared, I supported. She got praised, I got tasked. But the cracks were forming even before the blowout. It started as it always does, with small humiliations, the kind that slip under your skin because they're too minor to confront. My mother's eyes lingering too long on Emma's dress when I walked in. My father's laughter at her jokes, but silence at mine. The backhanded comments disguised as compliments. "You're so practical, Nora. You don't need the fancy things Emma likes." 2 weeks after that dinner, I found out just how invisible I truly was. It was my lunch break at the hospital, fluorescent lights, stale coffee, the hum of vending machines filling the quiet. I was scrolling through Instagram when a photo stopped me cold. My parents, Emma, her boyfriend. Standing under palm trees, drinks in hand, grinning like a magazine ad. The caption read, "Family getaway. Just what we needed." For a second, I thought it was old. Maybe from a past trip I'd forgotten. But the date said yesterday. Nobody had said a word to me. Not a call, not a text, not even a passing mention that they were going away. My chest tightened as I scrolled through the carousel of photos, Emma building sandcastles, my father snorkeling, my mother holding Emma's hand as the sun set behind them. It wasn't just that I wasn't invited. It was that I'd been erased. I called my mother immediately, my voice shaking more from disbelief than anger. "You're in Hawaii." She sighed, her tone light, as if I'd asked something silly. "Oh, Nora, we didn't think you could get time off work. You're always so busy saving lives. You didn't even ask," I whispered. "It was last minute," she replied breezily. "Emma needed to relax after starting her new job." "You understand." I hung up before the lump in my throat turned into tears. Hours later, Emma texted me. "Sorry, thought you knew. You're always working anyway." That was the moment it hit me they didn't forget me. They excluded me, and somehow they still believed I'd understand. But the real humiliation came later on Emma's birthday. They rented out the most expensive restaurant in town, crystal chandeliers, soft jazz wine that cost more than my paycheck. I arrived straight from another shift hair, pinned back my best dress, still looking out of place among rows of designer gowns. Mom stood up, glass raised. "To our Emma," she said proudly. "She's always had the drive, the focus, the future. Some people are just born to succeed." The room erupted in applause. I forced a smile. Then, Mrs. Chen, one of Mom's friends, leaned toward me. "And what about you, dear? What do you do?" Before I could speak, my father chuckled. "She's still finding her path, works in a hospital or something. But Emma's really going places." The words stung more than I expected. I wanted to scream, "I save lives." But instead, I raised my glass, swallowed the bitterness, and smiled. That night, as the laughter echoed around me, something inside me quietly snapped. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was final. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just favoritism anymore. It was warfare disguised as love. The birthday humiliation could have been the end of it. I could have swallowed the shame one more time, buried it beneath exhaustion and quiet acceptance. But life doesn't always let you stay numb. Sometimes it hands you the truth in plain sight and dares you to look. It happened a week later. I was helping my mother sort through a pile of bills at her kitchen table like I'd done dozens of times before. The blinds were half closed, sunlight slicing across stacks of envelopes. She passed them to me, absent-mindedly. Utilities, credit cards, mortgage statements, talking about Emma's latest promotion while I tried not to flinch at every mention of her name. Then I saw it. A thick envelope with Emma Lawson printed neatly across the top. Student loan statement. I skimmed the pages twice. Then my eyes caught the red stamp at the bottom, paid in full. Every single one. At first I thought I'd misread it. I flipped through the other envelopes, 5 more, all with the same bold letters. Paid, cleared, gone. Nearly $45,000 wiped clean. My stomach turned. I flipped to the payment history. The account number looked familiar, too familiar. I grabbed one of my old deposit receipts from my wallet and lined them up side by side. The numbers matched. I froze. The money wasn't Emma's. It wasn't my parents'. It was mine. My voice trembled when I finally asked Mom, "Did you use my payments?" "The money I've been sending every month for the mortgage?" She didn't even look guilty. Her voice was calm, almost bored. "Emma needs to focus on her career, Nora. She shouldn't have to carry debt when she's building her future." My throat tightened. And me. I've been drowning in my own loans, picking up extra shifts, tutoring after hours. "You have stability," she interrupted as if that excused everything. "You're responsible. Emma's path is different. You can handle more." It took a second to realize I wasn't breathing. My hands were shaking so hard the papers rustled. "You took my money to pay her loans." My mother's tone sharpened, her patience thinning. "Don't be selfish, Nora. Everything we do is for the family. When Emma succeeds, we all benefit." That word selfish cut deeper than I expected. It was the word they'd always used to keep me in line, to make me small. That night, I sat in the break room at the hospital, long after my shift ended, the buzz of fluorescent lights filling the silence. My notepad lay open on the table, a list of figures scrawled across it. Numbers I couldn't unsee. That's when Jennifer, our charge nurse, dropped into the seat across from me. She didn't bother with sympathy, she never did. "You're bleeding yourself dry for people who don't even see you," she said quietly. That's not family, that's exploitation. I handed her the notepad. I've been sending them money for years, for the house, the bills, even Emma's tuition. She did the math faster than I could. 47,000, she said, finally, her voice flat. That's what they've taken from you. The number hit like a punch. All those shifts, all those nights I went home too tired to eat. My sacrifices had been rerouted to fund my sister's perfect little life. I remember staring at that total for a long time. It didn't make me cry. It made me still, because once you see a pattern clearly, you can't unsee it. That was the night I stopped being their safety net. The first missed payment went unnoticed for a week. Then the phone calls began. My mother called first, her tone sugary and brittle. "Sweetheart, I think there's been a mistake, the mortgage payment didn't go through." Then my father's voice followed, full of accusation. "You know this family depends on you. Don't you dare make us look irresponsible." Even Emma chimed in a few days later. Her voice sounded small, almost guilty. "Mom's freaking out, Nora. Can you just handle it? Please." You know I'm under a lot of stress with work right now. That word again, stress. I almost laughed. I'd spent years living on caffeine and adrenaline patching together other people's emergencies. But the moment I stopped patching theirs, they fell apart. That's when I made my decision, calm, strategic. I called my mother and said, "Let's have dinner. Saturday night. Let's talk about contributions." There was silence on the line, then relief. "Of course," she said, already confident she'd won. "We'll cook something nice." They thought it was reconciliation. It was preparation. The days leading up to that dinner, I worked my shifts, paid my own bills, and built my evidence. Every transaction, every receipt, every transfer I'd ever made into their account. I printed them all organized neatly in a folder thick enough to snap their illusions in half. Saturday came. My mother cooked like she always did when she wanted control: roast beef potatoes, green beans glazed with butter. My father opened a bottle of expensive wine he couldn't afford without me. Emma arrived last, glowing her engagement ring, catching the light like it had something to prove. I sat down quietly, the folder beside me. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. For once, I wasn't the nervous one. Dinner started the way it always did: forced laughter, small talk, a performance of family unity. My father eventually cleared his throat, signaling the discussion. "Nora," he began, voice firm but rehearsed. "We need to talk about responsibility. You can't just stop contributing because you're upset. This family relies on you." My mother leaned in, her tone sharp but sweet. "We all have to make sacrifices. Emma's at a crucial point in her career. When she succeeds, it lifts us all." Emma smiled faintly, as if her life depended on it. Then my mother said it, those same cruel words she'd thrown at me weeks before, except now they landed differently. "You'll never be as good as your sister." The table went quiet. Even the clock seemed to hesitate. I pushed my chair back slowly, steadying my hands on the table edge. "Then ask Emma to pay your bills." The words cut through the room like a scalpel. The wine glasses stopped midair. And in that silence, so sharp, so absolute, I knew the performance was over. The silence after my words stretched like a fault line. I could hear the faint ticking of the hallway clock, the hum of the refrigerator, even the soft crackle of candle wax melting down the wick. No one moved, not even Emma. I reached into my bag and pulled out the thick folder I'd been carrying for 2 weeks, the quiet weapon I'd built page by page. I placed it in the center of the table and opened it slowly. Paper whispered as I laid out the evidence transfers, bank statements, loan receipts, a mountain of truth in black and white. "I've paid $47,000 into this family in the past 2 years. I said evenly. The mortgage, Emma's loans, her car, even her credit card debt. Emma blinked, stunned, her mouth parting like she was about to deny it until she saw her name printed across every page. Her voice broke first. "Mom, Dad, I didn't know. I thought you were helping me." Of course she didn't know. That was the point. They'd kept her polished and guiltless while I carried the weight for all of them. My father snatched a sheet, eyes darting over the numbers. His face turned red. "You're overreacting, Nora. This is family money. Family share." "No," I said, quietly pushing another page toward him. "Families communicate. Families ask. You didn't. You used me." My mother's jaw tightened. "We only did what was necessary. Emma needed support, and I didn't. I cut in my voice, shaking now, but not from fear. I've been killing myself with night shifts sending you money every month, and you spent it like I was your personal bank. Her lips pressed into a thin, trembling line. You're being dramatic. I laughed softly, the kind of laugh that comes when something finally breaks inside you. No, Mom. I'm being accurate. The silence grew thick. Emma stared down at the documents like they were ashes of a fairy tale she'd believed all her life. My father slammed his palm against the table. We're your parents. We did everything for you girls. You should be grateful. That word again. Grateful. For being robbed. For being erased. For being the one who worked herself half to death while they toasted Emma's success. I looked at him and said, You wanted a successful daughter. You just refused to see that you already had one. My mother's eyes darted to Emma, searching for someone to back her up, but Emma's tears were real now. I didn't know it was your money, she whispered. I thought you were proud of me. I was, I said quietly, until I realized everything you stood on was built with my sacrifice. The weight of it hung there, every word, every receipt, every hidden truth finally dragged into the light. My father's shoulders sagged. My mother's fingers twitched at the edge of the table, desperate for control that wasn't coming back. You told me I'd never be good enough, I said, voice low but steady, that I wasn't even fit to shine her shoes. But the truth is, it was my money that kept your lights on, my hands that paid for her education, my effort that built this illusion of success you love so much. No one replied. There was nothing left to defend. I gathered the papers back into the folder, each page sliding into place with the crisp finality of a verdict. Then I looked at all three of them, my mother pale and furious, my father hollow, and Emma small and broken under the weight of truth. The mortgage stops now, I said. Emma can pay her own bills, and so can you. When I stood, my chair scraped the floor, echoing like a full stop on a sentence that had taken years to finish. As I walked toward the door, I heard my mother's sharp inhale, my father mutter something under his breath, and Emma whisper, Please, Nora, wait. But I didn't. Not this time. When the door closed behind me, it felt like the world exhaled with me. For once, the silence wasn't heavy. It was clean. I didn't go back. Not for Sunday dinners, not for birthdays, not even when Emma's name lit up my phone 3 days later with a shaky voicemail. Please, Nora, can we talk? I didn't delete it. I just didn't answer. 2 weeks later, I accepted a new position nurse practitioner at a hospital 3 hours away. $120,000 a year, my own apartment, my own life. The first space I'd ever had where no one used my worth against me. Meanwhile, back home, the house that once smelled like roast dinners and red wine was rotting from the inside out. Without my payments, the mortgage fell behind. My father called me once more, just once, but I didn't pick up. 6 months later, I heard from a neighbor that the house was gone, foreclosed. The empire of favoritism had crumbled. Emma's engagement collapsed too. Her fiancé left when he realized the lifestyle he'd fallen for wasn't hers to give. She called again, then crying this time, begging for help. I listened to the message once her sobs echoing through my car speakers and deleted it. Because I finally understood I was never the weak one. I was the foundation. And once I stepped away, the whole structure of lies fell under its own weight. I didn't need revenge. Watching them face the world without me was enough. In my new city, I built something real, friends who didn't measure my value by comparison, co-workers who said thank you, neighbors who noticed when I wasn't home. For the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. And when I walked into my new hospital name tag clipped to my coat, the weight that used to sit on my chest every day was gone. Completely. Because peace, I learned, doesn't come from being loved. It comes from being free. Sometimes walking away is the loudest statement you'll ever make. If you've ever been the forgotten one, the overlooked sibling, the person who gave everything and got silence in return, remember this. Your worth isn't decided by anyone's applause. It's proven by how you rise when no one's watching. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own peace? And don't forget to subscribe, more stories like this are coming.